Hi everyone, I'm John C. Morley, the host of the JMOR Tech Talk Show and Inspirations for Your Life. Well, hey guys, and welcome to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Today is March 6th, if you are watching us live here. And it's great to be with you. It is the first Friday of March, so happy March. Hopefully spring will be coming soon. If this is your very first time here, I want to take the opportunity to say welcome and thank you for joining me. If you're coming back, and this is not your first time, of course, welcome back, and thank you so much for coming back. I always appreciate those that enjoy the quality and content that I produce and want to keep making that a part of their life and also sharing it with others so they can incorporate to become even better. If you guys are thirsty, feel free to go get yourself an RO water, a snack, a fruit, other beverage, and come on back to the show. If you have not heard of BelieveMeAchieve.com, well, go check that out after the show. That's where you can get my short form and long form content available 24 hours a day. That's articles, that's reels, that's the show, other shows. That's a great place to learn because a lot of these nuggets, we tend to forget if we hear them just one time. So without any further ado, guys, I want to kick this off. All right. So welcome everyone, if I have not welcomed you formally, to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Who am I? I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, engineer, marketing specialist, podcast host, coach, keynote speaker, graduate student, passionate, lifelong learner, and pretty soon I will be a published author. Yes, very excited for that moment. This week, I'm breaking down 14 explosive tech moments that will basically change everything. These are the stories shaping AI, big tech, and of course, our digital future, all in this one packed episode. Are you ready, guys? I know I am. So number one is Trump drops Anthropic. The government moves to phase out Anthropic's AI in U.S. agencies, calling it a supply risk. OpenAI secures a Pentagon deal, and that's pretty interesting. This isn't just tech rivalry, guys. It's about military control and the future of autonomous systems. But, they're definitely upset about this decision. But, I have to tell you, Anthropic has done some things that, let's say, are not appropriate. And even with the little scare that they planted about a year ago, I'm not going to go back into that now. But their culture, their purpose, it doesn't seem to be rooted in doing the right thing all the time. And that's just what it appears like from the media and the fact that they weren't willing to change when the government asked them. That's, guys, that's a pretty bad thing. I don't care how big you are or how small you are. That is a huge thing that a lot of people, don't realize. When you're doing something, just because you can doesn't mean you should. I've said this multiple times. So Trump ordering the government to drop Anthropic. Trump ordered the U.S. agencies to phase out Anthropic's AI, calling it, as I said, a supply chain risk. And Anthropic plans to fight it. OpenAI just secured a Pentagon deal. And this is more than tech rivalry, guys. As I said, it's control over military AI. And guys, that's getting pretty serious. Number two, robots are now moving in with seniors. This is an interesting one. Barcelona deploys 600 companion robots for elderly residents. Now, they claim to handle medications, calls, detect falls, and even can dance with the seniors. Care meets quiet surveillance, unfortunately. Is this human support or monitoring under a friendly disguise? And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize that some technology, even though that's great that it's out there, it actually is disguised in another purpose. So I'm not going to mention the store, but there is a store out there that has let's say a robot that moves around the floor, has lots of cameras on it, and they're kind of hidden, and kind of a little creepy robot, basically. It kind of walks around, it beeps and stuff like that. You see them in a lot of big food stores. And their purpose, they claim, is to basically, keep track. So if there's a spill, they can report it over the PA system so that, not that they can clean it up, so that it can go over the PA and someone else can come out with a mop or whatever to clean it up and fix the mess. But they spend a lot of money for a robot that can't even clean up something. It literally just monitors and notifies. But I have to believe that this robot has more, I should say, the purpose than just monitoring if there's a spill. I mean, that's great, but they spend a lot of money on this robot just to report a spill. And again, without going into the company's name and all that, but what I want to tell you is that this particular robot actually wasn't designed to just monitor spills and floor issues. It was actually designed to be more of a covert security system, which had cameras in it, which could watch if people were shoplifting and things like that. But, why don't you tell people this? Why do you do it covertly, right? Some stores have cameras. I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of stores that have cameras, Target, etc. I don't know if you know, but they don't have cameras in every one of those domes. Now, you can't necessarily tell very easily, but they have this game where they move cameras around, and the store cannot afford to have cameras in all the domes. So everybody thinks that they're being watched, but really, only a few of those cameras really are live. The others are just empty, hollow domes with a place where you could put a camera in. So the whole concept of, surveillance, of trying to track things, I get it, right? But why do we have to be deceitful in how we're doing it? Why don't we just say this robot is monitoring theft? Why don't we just tell people that, right? Why do we have to hide it and give it some other premise? I think that's a bad thing when people get an association of one thing, even like I said, with this going on and these seniors, they're trusting this robot, but really this robot is not their friend. This robot's there to help them if a challenge arises, but it's also there, quote unquote, to spy on them. Yeah. That's just a privacy concern of mine. And my other issue is, forget the privacy of just that moment. What about that system potentially exposing it to other unscrupulous third-party vendors that may choose to sell the data off? There could be, let's say, a security company, a furniture company, very similar to what Amazon wanted to do, and they kind of got their hand caught in the cookie jar, where they were trying to buy iRobot. It didn't go through. Their whole concept of doing it was they were hoping to get the maps, because they were already in people's homes. They were already trying to get the maps, get the data back, and then sell those maps. So that's highly unethical. And people think just because you don't know something suddenly means it's legal. Well, I beg to differ with you guys. Just because you don't know something does not mean it is legal. And so, I was reading something recently about Facebook where they may get into trouble very soon for some of the things they've done in the past. I mean, they've gotten in trouble for a lot of stuff, right? But whenever somebody does something deceitfully, okay, which is when they say one thing, but then they actually are planning another, well, that's deceit. Yeah, so we'll have to just keep an eye on these bots, these robots, I should say, and see what they're really up to. But I don't think it's just taking care of the seniors. Number 3, AI reading thoughts. Imagine this. Now, they claim that this is not so science fiction anymore. Brain implants now turn inner speech into real-time text for paralyzed patients. What are the next steps? Decoding the images, music, and even dreams. So mind reading is no longer science fiction. It's like thinking of Wi-Fi, and you being able to tap into that. Well, it's like we're tapping into the energy, to the signals coming off of our brain. And you know what that is? That's data. And once we know how to read it and decrypt it, well, we now have access to it. And I think a lot of people, don't realize how our body is so much like a computer. Now, I'm not saying that it's exact, but, humans have much more discerning power, right? The main difference between a calculator and a computer is that a computer can make decisions. But now we're learning to make these decisions, well, let's say a lot differently than we did in the past. So, scientists using AI and brain implants to turn inner speech into real-time text. This is something I feel that a lot of people are definitely going to be up in arms about, because if we're concerned, like I said a moment ago, about seniors, now the fact that we can just access data, right? Imagine you walking around and some device could suddenly just pick up what you're thinking. That's frightening, right? That's frightening. And that takes away our privacy and our humanity, I think. So I think something has to be done, in other words, to protect that at all costs. Everybody today, a lot of these production companies, they're in it for, why? Not to help people. I got to be honest. They're in it for the money. Yeah, they're in it for the money. Now, they don't say that because up front, they basically say that they want to do the right stuff. But truthfully, they're just going where their bread is buttered. They're just going where they can make money. If they exploit somebody, well, that might happen in the process. That's not acceptable, guys. That is not acceptable. And we as consumers, business owners, lawmakers, U.S. citizens have a right to our freedom and to our privacy. Number 4, guys, AI exploiting disabled identities. This is pretty bad. So Meta investigates AI-generated profiles of the adult content or mocking disabled users. So fake personas with real harm is starting to, let's say, emerge. And this raises some ethical questions. What AI creates versus what it protects. And we know that AI makes a lot of mistakes. I mean, that's no secret. But if what it's learning and if it's sharing data and this data that it's sharing is a problem, well, then that's capitalizing on our safety and our privacy. Yeah. So, as I said, Meta's investigating the AI-generated Instagram profiles that use adult content and mock disabled people. Fake personas, massive followings, real harm. And critics say generative AI is amplifying the bias and monetizing dignity. That could be things like race, sexual orientation, creed, color, political party, right? Religion, etc. When we start to use bias, that's a problem. I'm already starting to see it in the workforce, where companies like ADP are using AI, but unfortunately, there's a lot of bias, and people are not getting hired so easily. And they claim that, well, we're going to make sure you get the right candidates. But are they really getting the right candidates, or are they just biasing the results? That's a serious problem. And I think something needs to be done to address. I mean, AI makes, billions of dollars. So, of course, nobody's going to say anything. And, of course, they're helping lots of companies, but they're hurting a lot, too. I don't know if you know that. They're hurting a lot, too. And the company that has the most money usually doesn't get touched because they have all the protection. But we learn with companies like Facebook, they're not impervious to getting fined or to getting in trouble. All right, that's a huge, huge problem for people using the system, users, and even other people's data that gets on the system. Maybe a photo that gets uploaded from you that's got your friends and people in it. Could they be using that photo to exploit not just you, but to exploit everyone else in that photo? I don't trust them. Now, they don't call it exploiting. They have a clever word for it. They call it digital profiling or advertiser research. I don't care what kind of title you put on it. You're basically biasing people and you're indirectly blackmailing them. And I feel it's only a matter of time, guys, until something happens that will cause them to change their ways. We're already seeing what's happening in the United Kingdom, aren't we? Sure. And if more of those things result, I'd have to believe that the United States government, other governments are going to be like, well, wait a minute, we can't do this. We have to respond. But the issue is a lot of people don't understand AI. They don't realize that AI is a tool, and what you feed into it is what you get out of it. You know, sometimes you can give AI a prompt, and AI can still make mistakes. That's a serious, serious problem. Like I said, this raises some ethical questions. What AI creates versus what is it really protecting for us? And how about this? Have you ever gone to a stadium before, whether it's a Giants game, Jets game, or maybe even gone to a baseball stadium like the Yankees or the Mets, etc., or the Cardinals, and you take your phone out and it just dies. So stadiums and festivals, I don't know if you know this, choke cell towers. The steel, the concrete, and the massive crowds block connectivity. Even the best phones, the most expensive, the most powerful, the most optimized, experience connectivity issues when they have structural challenges. This is not a user error, guys. It is not a user error. And so what's the solution? Well, the solution is they need more towers. But is that the right solution? Is there something else they can do in the infrastructure? Can they build a tower just for the stadium? Like building their own kind of, let's say, intranet that links outward. Now, we've learned before that, you can use the internet to make calls, but there still can be bottlenecks. Maybe they need to set up intranet channels that go to the internet over specific channels that are just for that stadium. Now, here's a very interesting question. I don't know if you guys know this, but it's a pretty viral question, okay? How many people, this is the question I have for you, ready? How many people would you say use cell phones at a stadium? How many people, if you had to guess this answer, how many people would you say, how many would you say use cell phones at a stadium? Whether it's a baseball stadium, whether it's a football stadium, I don't care what kind of stadium it is. It doesn't really matter. But you know the capacity of most stadiums, right? They're not hundreds. They're in the thousands, and some are even more. So how many people use cell phones at a sports stadium? That's my question. That's a very open-ended thing because it depends on the resources. But here's the answer. About 80% of fans use their phones at live sporting events for social interaction, stats, photos. And even if they don't stream constantly, it's a problem. In big games, tens of terabytes of mobile data are used by thousands of connected phones, indicating broad simultaneous usage. So while the user counts vary by stadium size and event, most of the crowd is actively using or trying to use their phones during the event, which stresses cellular networks and contributes to drop signals. So how do you fix this issue? I got to tell you something. It's not a cheap fix. And this is why a lot of people are unhappy because the providers don't want to spend the money. Stadium connectivity problems happen because tens of thousands of phones try to connect to the same tower at once. They hit steel, concrete, and even human bodies, and they all weaken the signal. Large venues can solve this numerous amount of ways. One is the DAS, the distributed antenna system. You install hundreds of small antennas throughout the stadium. Instead of one distant cell tower, signals come from many antennas placed under seats, in ceilings, and in walls. The result, phones connect to the closest antenna instead of one overloaded tower. High-density stadium Wi-Fi is another big thing, which is a way to do it. So you can put under seats and handrails and overhead structures. Small cell networks, transmitters are used around the venue. And these are mini cell towers designed for dense environments like stadium, airports, and city centers. And this can increase, the capacity for it. Dedicated fiber backbone. The stadiums connect to multiple high-capacity fiber internet lines. Big events can require 100 plus gigabits per second of bandwidth. Without fiber, everything just kind of comes to a crawl. Network load balancing, I mean, that's part of it. You can balance between antennas, frequencies, and different carriers, but that's only part of it. Temporary mobile towers for, events, large events like the Olympics. They have something called COW, Cell on Wheels, portable towers that increase coverage temporarily. Old stadiums, they fail. Older venues were built before smartphones were even conceptualized. And they often have a few antennas, no underseat Wi-Fi, limited fiber bandwidth. So when 60,000 people pull out phones, the networks immediately. Events like the Super Bowl, fans can use 50 to 70 terabits of data in a single game. That's on the low side. And that's why modern stadiums invest tens of millions. Let me say that again. Tens of millions of dollars in connectivity infrastructure. And so this is a problem for a lot of people because most of the people coming to the game want to use their phone. And if they can't, that might affect whether they want to come to future games. So this has been getting worse and worse with newer technology. We're actually using more bandwidth. And now with things like being able to do instant replays of players, this all takes bandwidth, guys. So now you have the ability to suddenly, let's say, make a replay. And as you make that replay, you're using lots of bandwidth. I mean, lots of bandwidth, not just a little bit of bandwidth. So these things are definitely, excuse me a second here. They are definitely something that a lot of people don't realize. And they're a big problem for a lot of different places. So, new venues are fixing it with stadium Wi-Fi plus antenna systems, and older sites are going to continue to choke because those old sites might be eventually knocked down. Who knows what's going to happen? But we'll keep an eye on that for you. Number 6, guys, AI is now scoring fast food workers. I mean, seriously? Yes. Burger King actually tests AI headsets tracking friendliness scores. That's right, friendliness scores, and I quote them, in drive-thrus, monitoring tone, restocking, and questions. So support tools or workplace surveillance is a problem. More privacy being exploited. The debate is really live right now, and it's causing more and more concerns. Concerns that I don't think were prevalent many years ago, okay? I mean, Burger King using AI to test friendliness. The company says it supports staff, and critics call it workplace surveillance. And its question comes up, is this smarter service or is it AI management? I think it's AI management, okay? So this could cause a lot of turmoil between employees and staff and management. So what is the fix? I think everybody right now is trying to use AI in any way they can to try to save and make money. But the truth of the matter is AI doesn't just make money by turning it on. There's more to it than that. So give employees the choice maybe to opt in or opt out of the scoring. Require clear communication so workers know what's being evaluated, how scores are calculated, how scores are used. You can use aggregated team metrics, not individual scoring. Instead of grading individual workers, generate team-level insights, maybe by shift, store-wide friendliness trends, peak service bottlenecks, average wait times. And this removes the personal tracking and focusing on service quality as a collective. You know, I was actually at a fast food. I go there very rarely. I went the other day just to get a quick glass of juice at McDonald's. And the days of people just behind the counter are gone. The lady who was opening the door, which they don't even open at 5 or 6 anymore, they open at 7 in the morning, which is, guys, a little bit late. And the thing is, they're opening the doors, and that person, one of the person is running the whole show in the beginning. So they're expecting them to do a lot more than they've done in the past. Limit scope strictly to operational support. Restrict AI-assisted features to tasks like restocking alerts, workflow reminders, and maybe safety notifications. So if something gets in the way, whether it's an employee, whether it's a car, it can alert somebody to take action. Anonymize or blur personal identifiers. If analysis is necessary, transform audio. So it removes personality, identifiable speech, focuses on keywords, not individuals, using aggregated sentiment, not individual surveillance. And I think that's the problem. When we're talking about data and the data can be easily identified or linked back to a person, it causes a lot of pushback, right? Yeah, that's a big problem. And, you know, requiring, let's say, managers to review and validate performance evaluations, coaching conversations, and compensation decisions. Human judgment prevents errors and preserves fairness. We can't make that all technology. Protecting workers with clear policies. Companies should adopt policies that prohibit punitive use of AI data, ban use of scores for firing without valid context, provide workers access to their own data. Policies build trust, not technology that's trying to exploit it or, let's say, deceitfully maybe mask it. Third-party audits. Invite independent audits of AI scoring models, bias, and error rates. Privacy protections. External validation increases accountability. Governments could require explicit worker consent, worker data privacy protections, restrictions on automated scoring without appeal processes. Very similar to the fact where, like, New Jersey is a one-person record state where only one person on the call needs to understand that the call is being recorded and it's considered legal. And so when we think about AI, we think about AI doing the best for everybody, right? Unfortunately, AI is getting exploited many different ways. And if you don't understand the technology and I'm going to say the politics or the geopolitics and also the case studies, you can make some very bad decisions. Number 7, guys, the school war trend is out. Have you heard about it? Yep. Viral posts on TikTok, Instagram, and yes, X push kids into the quote-unquote red versus the blue school conflict zone. Police patrols spike up. Online actions can escalate fast into real-life consequences. You know, these kinds of things can get out of hand very quickly. Police and schools are responding to viral, what they call school war posts, dividing students into red and blue groups and encouraging violence. It's not what they should be teaching in school. No incidents are confirmed at this time, but patrols keep increasing. Officials urge parents to monitor phones and talk about weapons risk. Online trends can spill offline fast. And you know what? When information gets spread, we call it a rumor that's incorrect, that erodes trust immediately. It creates a sense of dis-ease between many people, whether that's students, whether that's faculty, whether that's vendors, and even parents, right? I think the best thing is to have a conversation with these people, to hold in-person services, maybe some short ones. Maybe it's weekly. Maybe you take each class and you meet with them. If you see some people that are, let's say, potential issues, you invite those 4 or 5 people into a private group session. And if it's just a couple, then you just meet with those people one-on-one. But I think people are exploiting technology. I'll tell you why. Because companies are saying, hey, we can solve your problem, right? But are we really looking at the ethical sides? I said this many times before, and I'm going to say it again. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You might be able to build a log cabin in the middle of the forest, or maybe even on Mars. But just because you could doesn't mean you should. Number 8, guys, Instagram alerts parents. Instagram notifies parents if teens repeatedly search self-harm or suicide terms. Supporters call it, quote-unquote, protection. Critics warn of outbreak of panic. Digital parenting meets automated oversight. One gentleman I was responding to his comment on social media said, if your kids are on Instagram solely and it's running their life, now he came out and said, that's bad parenting. I don't know if I agree with that statement. I definitely agree that if they find out about it, it's a good way to do education. And although, your teens and your kids' life, it's private, but it's important to have conversations like, if somebody asks you this, somebody asks you that. I mean, you have questions with kids that are, let's say, in the 4, 5, 6, 7, but when they get into the teens, it's like, well, they're in their own world and they think they know everything. But that's actually when they also can get exploited because they're overconfident. And yeah, the bad actors, they can trip that up. At least the younger kids, they sense a red flag and they go tell mommy or daddy. They go tell someone. The bigger kids are like, oh, I'm a teenager. I can handle that. I know exactly what to do. And then they fall right into the trap. Traps are not just being set up for minors, guys. They're being set up for people of all different ages. We see phishing attempts and so many different attempts online for these things. But the question is, what's really going on, right? What is really going on, and what are people doing about this? So we will definitely keep you in the loop of what's happening, give you some trends of different things. But again, this whole spark of this, the social media poster urging students to join Northampton War and, be quote unquote violent. It's circulating across TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Police say patrols are increasing and anyone fighting or carrying weapons will be arrested immediately. Parents are alarmed. Online threats are spilling offline. That's a serious problem, guys. A really, really serious problem. But when we're talking about this whole concept of Instagram and warning, you know why they're doing it, right? They're doing it because they don't want to get sued, right? They do not want to get sued. So, social media platforms right now, the one I mentioned, are going to be taking their own steps. And I think even more are going to be taking steps in the future. When somebody goes online and searches about suicide, you have to ask yourself, what is their real motive? Why would they do that? It's one thing if they're trying to understand maybe something else and they're reading it, but when they keep doing it several times, they're up to something that probably should be monitored. Number 9, guys. Have you heard about the new 48-hour takedown rule? This is not BS. United Kingdom law now requires platforms to remove non-consensual intimate content in 48 hours or less. Failure can mean fines up to 10% of global revenue. Wow, that's going to hit someone in their pocketbook. Big tech accountability just tightened it. Victims no longer chase platforms anymore. It's something how the UK is stepping in and saying, we've had enough. But why? This is my big question. Why is it that the United States of America is, why is it that they're kind of being oblivious to this? I mean, they obviously know about it, but what's going on? And so this rule about, the takedown rule, I think it's a good idea, but I think it's also something that we have to realize, right? We have to understand that this rule is there to protect people. It's not there to exploit people. So I'm sure people are going to try to get around the rule, right? I'm sure that's evident. But we have to ask ourselves, why is the rule in place? And the rule's in place to help and basically and protect people, right? Yeah. So under the proposed UK law, tech platforms must, it's not an option, remove non-consensual intimate images within 48 hours. If they fail, they get hit with a 10% charge of their global revenue. And the government says the victim should not chase, but big tech accountability is getting tightened. But is this enough? And how are they going to police this? This is my other concern. This is an amazing idea, but how are they going to police this? Are they going to rely on people just reporting it back to them? Or are they going to have people on their payroll literally going around and checking to see if these images are up there? I think it's going to come from people reporting it. That's my own thing. And potentially, I don't know, but potentially these people might get paid for reporting this data, because you're asking somebody to do a lot. And if somebody doesn't want to go through the extra step, well, they may not. Number 10, guys, school war police warning. Threatening social media posts spark local enforcement action. Online misbehavior isn't harmless, guys. It triggers immediate offline response. There is a great psychologist who we've brought on the show before, and he has a great term, and this term he came up with, ODDOR. And so, when we think about this term, offline distress dictates online response. Okay. He runs a website called iPredator. Great guy. I've had a chance to have him on before. His name is Dr. Nuccitelli. He's a New York City licensed psychologist, cyber psychology expert on this, and internet safety educator. He is author of the two concepts, iPredator 2010 and Dark Psychology 2016. In addition to working full-time as a clinical psychologist, Dr. Nuccitelli volunteers his time helping those who have been cyber attacked and victimized online. iPredator is an online assailant concept, internet safety websites in New York's city society, sole proprietorship company. And so, when we think about this whole concept of odor, right? Odor is something, offline distress dictates online response. So how you are in your daily life, maybe you're somebody who's keeping themselves, that's going to blow up somewhere. And it's going to blow up online, is what he has said after a lot of research. And it makes a lot of sense, guys. It makes an awful lot of sense, what's going on. And I think, this becomes a challenge for a lot of people, okay? The social media posts are urging students, as I said, to join the Northampton war thing. I mean, this is crazy. And police saying the patrols are increasing. I mean, I get it, right? But, I think a program needs to be put in place in schools, something that is mandatory, something that's not just going to happen like, 1, 2, 3. I think that's probably, the big thing I can tell you is that if that's not handled in the appropriate fashion, well, people are going to keep doing it. So we've got to educate kids young. That could be as soon as first grade. It's never too early to educate, okay? Number 11, guys, Microsoft email leak. Yep, Microsoft did it again, another big blunder. A Copilot AI error surfaces confidential emails from draft and sent folders. Access controls remained intact, but leaks happened. So now these systems like Microsoft's Copilot, Google's Gemini, they want to analyze your email and give your responses. No, thank you. We've already seen that they've made mistakes in processing. It's obvious that they're not secure enough to trust them to block out from not sending things properly. We can't trust security in the AI world yet. We can get advisement. We can figure out what's happening, but we should never take that as, let's say, truth. I was talking not too long ago, I think it was last week, about, when do we call the police when it comes to AI? That one account that did not get flagged caused a big shooting in a school. But they don't trust AI, but AI should have at least flagged a human being to say, hey, look, this is a problem on their profile. Maybe you should check it out. And rapid AI rollouts meet real-world security challenges. Enterprise AI faces its first reality check. And guys, we're going to see more of this. This is not over yet. In fact, we're only seeing the beginning of it, okay? And I don't mean that to scare you, but I mean to let you know, because a lot of times people think that, AI is impervious. It's not. And so, the Microsoft ERIC allowed Copilot to surface and summarize emails marked confidential from users in their draft folder and sent folders. And the company says, quote unquote, access controls state attack, and the fix was posted live. What about all those people that got exploited? Experts are warning that rapid AI rollouts make data leaks inevitable. Enterprise AI just had a big reality check, and I think we need to put safeguards in place. We have to keep a human in the loop, and we have to make sure that before AI does something that could affect a human, that it's validated by a human being. It should never be able to make that decision, right? We've heard about, before, we've talked about war games. I've talked about them before. And everybody asks me this very important question. Do we still have Minutemen in our war silos? And this is a very good question, because, AI is starting to run a lot of the government. And so the LGM, Minuteman III, is the only land-based intercontinental ballistic missile currently deployed by the United States. So they're part of the nuclear triad, which includes land-based missiles, submarine-launched missiles, and strategic bombers. So the U.S. maintains roughly 400 active Minutemen III, they call it, missiles, in underground silos. They are located in 3 main Air Force bases. F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Wyoming, Nebraska, Colorado, Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota. So Minuteman III entered service in 1970s, but it has been upgraded multiple times with new guidance systems, improved warheads, updated electronics. The U.S. plans to replace it with a newer missile system called the LGM-35 Sentinel, which is currently under development as we speak, but of course it's top secret. So yes, the Minuteman III is still active today, but it's expected to be phased out in 2030 as the Sentinel system replaces it. And so this means we won't have Minuteman in 2030. So I don't know about you guys, but that's a huge concern of mine that that could happen. Now, they're saying not exactly. The LGM-30 Minuteman will likely still exist around 2030, but it will be in the process of being replaced. So the question is, when will they be gone? You got a while, right? We got 7, 8, 9, 30. You got like 4 years right now. It's 2026. They're going to be retired sometime in the mid-2030s. So from now to 2029, they remain the primary U.S. land-based ICBMs. Around 2029 to 2030, the replacement missiles, the LGM-35 Sentinel, is scheduled to begin deployment. Around 2030s, the silos begin transitioning from Minuteman to Sentinel. So Minuteman III missiles are expected to be fully removed from service once the Sentinel system is deployed. The U.S. cannot remove them, of course, all at once. The nuclear deterrent must stay active 24/7, and each silo must be upgraded for the new missile. The Minuteman III will likely start being replaced around 2030, and it will be completely gone by the mid-2030s. So what is the Sentinel? And I know I'm opening a Pandora's box, but I think this is a very important topic. to be discussing. It's the things that nobody really talks about. The Sentinel is the next generation U.S. land-based nuclear missile system that will replace the LGM-30G Minuteman. It's part of the United States nuclear triad, and Sentinel is an intercontinental ballistic designed to launch from underground silos and travel thousands of miles. Minuteman III first came 1970. Even with the upgrades, the system is over 50 years old. Sentinel is built to provide modern digital guidance, improve cybersecurity, updated command and control. They're still going to be in F.E. Warren Air Force Base, Malmstrom Air Force Base, and Minot Air Force Base. So the question is, will be upgraded rather than abandoned, they said. So the cost, the Sentinel program is estimated to cost over $100 billion for development, missiles, and new infrastructure. Simply, a good way to think about it is Minuteman were the Cold War missile systems. Sentinel is the modern digital nuclear deterrent. The thing is this, will we still have men to launch them, or will it be all AI? I mean, I think that's the question that you guys probably all want to know the answer to. And the United States says right now they plan to keep humans in control of launching nuclear weapons, including the future LGM Sentinel. It will not be AI launched. So that's good to know, but they are changing the technology of the missiles. Only the president of the United States has the authority to order a nuclear launch. The order goes through a strict command chain involving the United States Strategic Command and the United States Department of Defense. The missile crew role, they launch facilities are staffed by human missile crews. For current missiles like the LGM-30, Minuteman III, 2 officers must verify the codes and turn keys simultaneously. Now, the 2-person rule prevents a single person from launching a missile, just because they want to, or let's say accidentally. AI may assist with monitoring missile systems, cybersecurity, maintenance, diagnostic, early warning data analysis, but AI will not have the authority to launch nuclear weapons. Bottom line, even when Sentinel replaces Minuteman in 2030, humans will still operate the systems. Humans will verify launch orders. Humans will make the final decisions. Will humans ever be removed from, that chain? It's something people have asked, and no credible U.S. policy or program indicates that humans at this time will be removed from the nuclear launch chain. Current doctrine explicitly keeps human decision authority over nuclear weapons. I'm glad about that. For systems like the future LGM-35, the launch process is designed around human control and verification. The launch authority ultimately belongs to the President of the United States, with execution handled through United States Strategic Command. So why humans stay in the loop? Removing humans would create major risks. Accidental launches, false sensor readings, triggering automated responses, cyber manipulation of automated systems. Because of those risks, nuclear command systems are intentionally built around human verification layers. AI may increasingly assist with early warning analysis, I said, the monitoring, the cyber defense, maintenance diagnostics, but AI does not have launch authority right now. And most nuclear armed states emphasize humans in the loop. So AI will likely support nuclear systems, but humans are expected to remain in the launch. Will this stay forever? I can't tell you, but I hope it will. Number 12, child abuse threats are rising, guys. The United Kingdom National Crime Agency reports 1,000 children were abused and arrested per month. That's a pretty bad thing. AI-generated content and algorithms, and it amplifies the risk. Tech firms must act to prevent escalation. And online threats are growing in scale, and guys, they're growing in complexity. And I think that's a huge problem for a lot of people to understand. I think sometimes people don't understand exactly what that means, but I want to tell you that it's important to understand. And that's an important issue. So those things are important to understand. Pentagon picks, OpenAI. Anthropic is sidelined as OpenAI deploys AI inside Pentagon classified systems. Humans are made responsible for autonomous weapons. AI policy is now a geopolitical issue. And these are important things, guys, that we need to be aware of every single day in our life, every single day. So these are important things. And our last point for this week, solar charging freight. South Africa deploys off-grid solar charging hubs for electric trucks. This is kind of neat. So each hub costs $1.25 million. The investment is $6.2 million. Africa may leapfrog to clean, sustainable logistics. Each of these 14 stories, as you can see today, are pretty powerful. And they demonstrate something that's pretty uniform between all of them. AI, big tech, and human decisions intersect, impacting security, privacy, infrastructure, and society itself. And so from the Pentagon to your neighborhood, technology is moving fast, and we're here at the JMOR, a tech talk show, to break it down for you. I think a lot of people out there don't realize one thing. Everyone thinks that AI is going to replace, military. And I want to share that with you today. Yes, they are changing the missiles to be AI, but I want to share with you that even though they're being replaced, they're not getting rid of Minuteman. We had Minuteman 1, Minuteman 2, Minuteman 3, and their roles are changing, how they verify, but there's still humans in the loop. In the very first iteration, I remember reading about how they had and even in the movie War Games, they had to basically crack open a box, open the glasses, and read the code with the glasses. The other person did the same, and then they had to take the key on the mark, and they both had to turn the key at the exact same time for the system, or within the same so many seconds, or the missile would launch. So if they turned a mark, it didn't have to be simultaneously, but you had to both turn the key. So that's an important thing. And more people are getting scared about this, but I want you to understand that our government understands that it's not currently control the weapons. I'm a little concerned, though, to why Anthropic was going to be in the military. Now, they don't tell us everything. So if I had to believe, would AI eventually make launching decisions? It could make recommendations. But I think if they turned it over to an automated launching system, that would be a disaster. And I hope the head of defense knows that we have to keep a human in the loop. It seems right now that they are keeping a human in the loop, but not always for everything. Definitely in the missile world, okay? I'm not saying that about every other weapon they have, but definitely in the big missile world. So we'll have to see what happens, and we'll keep an eye. But I know that AI is going to provide more resources, hopefully, to be able to save more lives of our own national defense. Giving people early warnings so they can get out of areas, so they can prepare, so they can plan. I think that's a really good use of AI, but realize we can get false positives. That's a very important thing to definitely understand, that we can get false positives. And these false positives are not something that we should take lightly. When we get a report, we should check on it. Just like in the schools, I had said that when AI detects something, it should report it to, the head of security or the armed guards, or even the principal, maybe several people, and make people aware of things. I think awareness is the whole problem. The more that we're aware of technology, the better technology can be for us. Now, I said to you before, no technology is good, no technology is bad. It's how we choose to orchestrate and implement technology that makes it good or makes it bad. Does that make sense to everybody? So AI is going to keep morphing. It's going to keep expanding as we grow every single day. My only hope is that everyone that puts their hands and minds on AI technology use it to create things, services, etc., that are going to be for the greater good of all concerned. Because I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I could do this and I can make money. And I say what I said before. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Before I wrap up today, I do want to let you know about the book. I'm not giving the title out. It's going to be 15 pages. I have another chapter to write. It will be launching after the dedication. I'll be making the dedication to my parents on April 17th or April 18th. It will become a public title then. It will be it'll be starting to be distributed basically early May, but the title will be released on April 17th, April 18th, right after the dedication, because that's when you guys will know what the title is. And it's put together in a way that each chapter can be read in 30 minutes. And in that time, you also have the same time in that same 30 minutes to be able to do what I call the pause and reflect. And so anybody can read a book, right? But when we choose to read a book and we choose to apply the concepts, the dogmas, the principles, that's when we really learn. It's not when we just read something. We don't learn it like that. I was talking to another student the other day in my one of my master's classes, and I said, we don't learn from the professor when he gets up there. We learn by going home and reading, and most importantly, doing and applying. Getting ready for a midterm or any test, it's not about reading. It's about doing the stuff over and over again and building that level of confidence, which says, hey, I own this material. That's how you learn. But it is a process. It's time consuming and it's not easy for a lot of people. So if you want to learn, the best way to learn is by doing. Of course, you can hear, you can see, you can touch. But if you want to learn well, you want to do. That is like so very, very critical. So I invite you guys to definitely check out my book. It'll be, I think it'll be on Amazon. It'll be on Audible. It'll be a few other places. We have some tours scheduled with Barnes & Noble, so we've got that coming. So we've got a lot happening. And I know, ladies and gentlemen, I am so grateful to put this book out. I'm also going to be publishing a book on AI late this year or early next year. Everybody's been asking me. And I think that's going to be something that's going to get people anxious, people curious. But I don't want you to think that AI is here to replace you. AI will replace some jobs, and it's mostly the jobs where people would get hurt or it would potentially affect their lives negatively. So that's the difference. We're going to get rid of some of those labor-type jobs. Okay? I invite you guys to definitely stop by believemeachieve.com, and you can check everything out. This show, other shows, 24/7, 24/7 and 365 days of the week. All right. Have yourself a great one, everyone. Be well. And remember, AI is explosive, but don't think it's going to overpower you. That's our choices to use it wisely, smartly, and for the greater good of all concerned. Take care, everyone.